All right, we are live.
Hello, hello, hello.
Let me double check all the streams are up. Comment below if you can hear us and see us.
You people did. If you are here, say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. We got Steven says good flipping afternoon, which I think is a compliment in this world. It's hard to tell these days. If you're a hater, then keep on hating, baby. Ted Lasso season 3 must have finished. Yes, the mustache is gone. Had enough comments from friends and not so much friends that said get rid of it, so it is gone. Going back to the summer cut. We got people from Cincinnati, Neptune. We got somebody all the way from the outer reaches of our solar system, which is pretty exciting. We got Shenandoah Valley. Did David show up as well, Matthew?
David is here. Let me throw him in here. Sorry, David. I had you sitting down there.
David's still on vacation time. Love that shirt.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, welcome back to the U.S. Actually, I know you had a bit of an adventure.
Yeah. I just got back.
Cool. You want to share where you were and what happened, or is that a story for another day?
Yeah, maybe a story for another day. I was down in South America though.
Very cool.
The weather was beautiful down there, and ate a lot of good food. So
nice.
Beautiful. Well, glad to have you back. Hope you are refreshed and well. Matthew, how's your family doing since we last time you were fighting sickness?
Yeah, they're doing better. I got sick right after that live stream last week, but I'm recovering from that. I feel fine. My voice just doesn't sound fine. So that's why I've got a mic up a little closer today. But everyone's doing a little better, which is good.
Very glad to hear that as he coughs. So Matthew will be here early. We do want to protect his voice, so he'll be kind of running things from the background once we kick things off. But welcome to episode number 2. I think something like 90% of podcasts past episode 1. So here we are. Congrats, everybody. We are on episode 2 of Books and Bourbon. And if bourbon's not your thing, that's okay. Bring a drink of choice. We do this every Thursday at 4 p.m. And just if your boss asks, it's 5 p.m. somewhere. So go ahead and bring a drink, alcoholic or otherwise of your choice. And we're glad you're here. These will be available for replay later, both on our Facebook group, the Book Flipper community, as well as I think on both Matthew and my channels as well. So feel free to check those out. And if you have to jump off for whatever reason, you can do that. We have a special guest who we'll announce shortly. We're excited that she's going to be here, a fairly new beginner in the world of books. So we're excited to share her journey with all of you. And we are going to be doing a giveaway. So maybe let's announce that first. Matthew, you want to throw that slide back up there?
Yeah, let me throw that back up here.
So we'll introduce her shortly. Her name's Alaisa, but she is doing a bunch of Instagram content. And to kind of help her out, we are asking that you go give her a follow. So there's her Instagram handle there. Obviously, I don't think you can click through from this screen, but at Alaisa Online. And if you would give her a follow, what we're going to do is by the end of the show, anybody that's followed her during the show here, she's going to kind of scroll up and down and pick a random winner. And we are going to send you a fancy Opticon Bluetooth scanner. So hopefully we'll find a beginner that comments. Perfect. So there'll be a link in the comments, I think on Facebook and probably YouTube. So check that link. And it is Cinco de Mayo. So for those of you that go out later, David got his Modelo, living large. For those of you that go out later, be smart, be safe. Couple tips. 1, don't drink too many margaritas. And if you do, don't drink and drive. Secondly, if you do go get Mexican food, which you should, do not pound 3 baskets full of chips and salsa before your main entree comes, because that's a recipe for stomachache later. So just take it easy on the nachos, on the guacamole. Be careful and have fun out there. Hopefully you get some time to celebrate with friends. But before you jump out and grab your margaritas, we're going to kick things off here. I do want to share just a little bit. Cinco de Mayo is an interesting day for me. Not such great memories, and I'll share the abbreviated story. 14 years ago in college, and Matthew, I think that screen is.
You want me to share it?
Yeah, go ahead. So 14 years ago in college, I set out to bike across the country. I did a number of cycling events. We used to bike from Michigan down to Ohio to like youth conference. So we'd go like 400 to 500 miles in the span of a week. And we figured, hey, we should go coast to coast. So that's my brother in the yellow. I'm the skinny lad on the left. So we dipped our wheels ceremoniously on the Atlantic Ocean on the east coast of the U.S., and we set out to bike cross country. We crossed New Jersey on day 1. It was about 70 miles or so. Day 2, we set out. My brother was actually looking for an electric bike because he was already tired of cycling after day 1. And I was coming downhill, just crossed into Pennsylvania. I'd been warned about the drivers there, and a high school kid was late for baseball practice, cut across traffic, and took me out. So the trip ended on day 2 on Cinco de Mayo. So it's a not so special day for me, and there's some proof. So I got a couple stitches. Sorry for the ugly close-up mugshot, but got some stitches, bruised some ribs, but really no long-term damage. So I'm very, very fortunate there. And this year, to add insult to injury, my 4-year-old son, we were kind of throwing a ball around in the front yard. He decided to do this to me. Add her up. So he tried to take me out there. So if you guys want to see that later, that's on my Instagram as well. So it's Elliot. He's a trooper. All right, enough about me. Let's introduce our special guests. We'll break out what bourbons we're drinking, and then we'll jump right in. So if you would bring in Alaisa, say hello, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, and we're glad to have you there. Dave, I didn't get him the link early enough, so I don't know if you two met in the pre-section at all, but Dave, meet Alaisa. Alaisa, Dave.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we are excited to meet her. She's very new to the journey, and we'll explain a little bit more and catch her story here shortly. But first, it is Books and Bourbon, so let's get the bourbon out of the way. Matthew, what are you drinking today?
You grab it here. So I got Sazerac. Let's see if it focuses here. Sazerac rye from, this is Buffalo Trace, right? Yeah, from Buffalo Trace. It's something that I couldn't find for a long time, and now I'm seeing it all over the place. So I thought it was a rare find when I first got it, but now it's coming back in stock everywhere. But it's just a great, easy drinking bourbon from Buffalo Trace. It's been around for a long time. What's funny is that I looked up a little bit of the history of this. And so Sazerac was a coffee shop, actually, or a cafe a long, long time ago that started serving rye whiskey with some bitters. It wasn't exactly an old fashioned. It was a little bit different than that. And people started calling it the Sazerac whiskey. And it became the very first branded bourbon cocktail that was for sale in the United States, which was kind of cool. I didn't know that back history on it. So that's what I've got today.
Very cool. David, I saw you had a Modelo. Do you have something else, or is it
just a Modelo and some lime in celebration of Cinco de Mayo?
I love it. What's the story behind Mr. Modelo? Did you look up any fun facts?
It's been sitting in my fridge for almost a month now because I've been out of town. But I know Modelo is a subsidiary or is in the same family as Corona, and I read just recently Modelo and Corona is the beer of choice for most people. Cinco de Mayo is like 34%.
Oh, dang.
Over margaritas.
And 86% of stats are made up on the spot. So we'll see if that holds true. Well, it does taste better with a lime, so enjoy that drink. And Alaisa, did you say you had something special to sip on?
Yeah. I mean, I just have a chai tea here that I threw some classic 1792 in. So that's what I had to raid our liquor cabinet. I don't drink much, but I do like a good chai tea. So
excellent. And Matthew, I stayed in the same family. I've got a bottle of Stag Junior here. It's one of my favorite bottles. I'll share why in a second. So Stag Junior is also in the Buffalo Trace family. We'll get to some fun stories later. I want to get to Alaisa's story here, so I won't share too much about the history of bourbon. But tune in. We'll kind of leave a teaser for some future weeks. But Stag Junior is batch 17. So they do 2 batches a year. Typically, I think fall. I'm gonna slaughter. It's probably fall and spring, I believe, or maybe winter, summer. But at any rate, they do 2 to 3 releases. Let's just call it that. This is 17. This is the last one they're going to do as Stag Junior. They're just going to rebrand it as Stag. George T. Stag is kind of the big brother of this. It's a much more expensive bourbon. And just to give you an idea for those that aren't into the bourbon world, this bottle is about a $45 to $50 MSRP. And on the secondary market, it goes anywhere from $250 to $400. So the collectors are out there. People are snatching it up. But the reason I like this particular bottle is we had a nice dinner to welcome David when he joined our team. And we went out to celebrate, and as he joined the IQ family, as we call it. And our developer is really into bourbon, and he bought some nice shots of Stag Junior. So now every time I drink a bottle of Stag Junior or have a sip of it, I'm reminded of the day you joined our team. So cheers to you, Dave.
Cheers.
So on that note, we'll do a little cheers, and we will jump in.
Hey.
Last week we had a bit of a drinking game. Every time somebody said ISBN in the real speech, we had to drink. I don't know if we're going to play that game today, but we'll see. So comment below what
comment your word of choice.
Yeah, comment what we should do. Well, one of the reasons I like this bottle, again, it reminds us to celebrate. One of the, like, as we're entrepreneurs, and there's always, you know, mountains to climb and the next challenge to figure out. A lot of times we don't take the time to step back and actually celebrate those small wins. And Alaisa is pretty new to the space, and we'll jump in and get her story shortly. But one thing, well, two, she was putting out a ton of content. But the one thing that I really liked about her profile is, you know, I saw her putting out a bunch of Scout IQ content and book selling content, and I was like, that's cool. Someone else is, you know, throwing up content. This is great. And I think, are you on TikTok as well?
I just started a TikTok.
Okay, because I saw you had a bunch of reels that kind of look like they're built for TikTok. So hopefully those will get repurposed.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to her profile, like, who's this girl that's flipping books? I haven't heard of her. And, you know, her profile says 3-figure Amazon seller. So, you know, she's in the $100 range, right? So most people brag about 6 and 7 and 8-figure sellers. And here's Alaisa saying, I'm a 3-figure Amazon seller. And actually, she just hit $1,000 in sales last week or so.
Yeah.
And
Four figure seller.
to 4 figures. So there we go. So let's jump in, and you want to give a little bit of your history. You've got a similar story where you started in corporate. So let's start there, and then kind of why you quit corporate and how you got into Amazon and books.
Yeah. So this would be like early 2019 was the last time I had like a solid like corporate full-time job. I was actually a corporate trainer at Nationwide Insurance, but I also had just given birth to my daughter. And I feel like if you haven't had like an existential crisis in your like mid 20s, then you're probably going to have one when you have your first kid. It's just, you know, you're like, oh man, like what am I doing with my life? Like what do I do next? Especially as a mom, it's a like kind of an identity thing. Um, so I was really struggling with like, was I gonna keep working? I liked my job okay. I didn't love it. I don't know if any of you have worked in insurance. It is exceptionally boring. Um, my mom had a full insurance career, and it just wasn't where I pictured myself. So of course, it ended up being a financial decision, like most. And after crunching the numbers, I figured after childcare and lunch and gas, I was making less than minimum wage to go to work every day. And so I quit my job. I started doing some side jobs here and there. Um, I was a virtual assistant for an insurance agent for a while. Um, I actually work part-time at Publix supermarkets. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that, but I work 5 hours a week even to this day to keep the stock options. They have exceptional stock. um, so meanwhile, I end up obviously the pandemic hits. I have a second kid. Um, and now I'm isolated at home with 2 kids. So I'm like going a little bit stir crazy. I'm trying to figure out what I can do to kind of keep busy. I actually I end up going to therapy because I'm like something must be wrong. Like I'm always either overwhelmed or I'm bored. And I don't understand why those are the only 2 options. And my therapist kind of challenged that perspective, and they said, you know, I don't think you're overwhelmed. I think you're understimulated. I think that you need to find something else to do to to occupy your time and to keep your brain busy, other than like you know, Coco Melon songs and Cheerios. You need to do something else here, and kind of get another hobby, another side gig. So. Um, I actually have a good friend named Noelle Ancona, and she started selling on Amazon in March of 2021. And she started a reselling Instagram around that same time. So I've been following her for over a year now. Um, And I actually downloaded the Amazon seller app last year, right? And I kept telling myself, when you get time, when I get time, I'll start doing this Amazon thing, right? And that's just not the mentality that you can have, especially as a parent or as you know, as you get older with all these responsibilities, you have to make the time. So I finally decided, listen, I'm going to make the time. I'm going to start selling. Um, what really sold me is she started posting how her year went this past March, and she sold, I want to say, like $347,000 in sales in her first year, and she also had a baby at home. So it really got me thinking, like, man, um, you know, Noelle is pulling this off so well. I already know someone doing it. Maybe I should really give this a shot. And she actually directed me to Warner Fields' YouTube channel, Fields of Profit, and that led me to like their Amazon Launchpad Discord, which took me to Flips for Miles social media like Empire, and from there I found you guys. I found Romer the Roamer, Rake and Profits, Cage Inventor Ventures, and I just started consuming content like just like it was my job, because ultimately, like, I wanted it to be. I wanted to sell on Amazon. I wanted to be able to do this. And 6 weeks later, here we are.
Fantastic. So I love the fact that you took action and jumped in, and there is so much content. One of the challenges is that it's so easy to get paralysis by analysis, where there's just so much content that you go, okay, I can't handle it. I'm overwhelmed. Just put my hands up, and I'm going to go back to being a mom or to my day job or whatever. What was the first step that you took to kind of go through that clutter and actually like get started?
Well, I think the good thing is a lot of the content creators right now, I mean, they'll even tell you, like, they won't say like, "Hey, stop watching my stuff," but they'll say, "Hey, listen, you have to learn by doing. You have to make the mistakes yourself." I mean, I can tell you about Amazon all day long, and I can show you what I do, but you have to just go and get started and figure it out. And yeah, so basically, when I hit this wall of like, I'm learning is like my thing. I love learning new things. If I could learn, everything in the world, I would. Um, but you cannot, without actually doing it, the learning curve is so steep that unless you're like hands on and you are doing, you are sourcing product and you are listing it on Amazon and you're just going through the steps, you cannot figure it out by learning it first. Like, you have to kind of navigate it as you go. And so that's really what pushed me to just be like, okay, I'm a perfectionist at heart. It's actually the main thing I'm working on in therapy. And this is like the opposite of perfectionism. Like, to to get into this like industry and to create content on Instagram, you cannot be a perfectionist because you will freeze up and you will never do anything. So it's really just been a giant like life lesson. It's been awesome.
I love how you came back to that. I'm actually training an intern the last week and this week who wants to get into sales, and he's having trouble getting an interview because he doesn't have sales experience. That's the great, cart before the horse type thing, that everybody wants you to have industry experience, but no one wants to be the first to hire you. So I said, hey, we've got a small side project that kind of needs some help with sales. And we sat down and just started talking through business and what's the goal of a business and what's the goal of sales. And one of the things we came up with, and I really tried to hammer home, was exactly that. Said, you will never be perfect. You're going to try and balance this pendulum of perfect on one side and then just take action. And either one is dangerous. If you just swing over here and say, I'm going to wait until I have 100% knowledge and 10,000 hours in my field, you'll never get started. And so you'll sit there and nothing will ever happen. On the other hand, if you just jump in and don't do any research, you could totally make a fool of yourself, fall on your face, do illegal things. I mean, bad things could happen as well. So the trick is somewhere in between perfection and just taking action is kind of the sweet spot. And at any given time, you can always go back and try and pursue more perfection. But that's the biggest thing I told him. I said, look, you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to keep making mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes starting out. I still do. And we'll just make them together, and that's all right. But they'll be educated, calculated mistakes where we won't lie, we won't take advantage, we won't do anything illegal, but we'll fall on our faces. That's okay. So I love that. I love that mentality. David, you've got, you shared a bit of your story, I think 3-4 weeks ago before we did the books in Bourbon. Do you want to share just a little bit when you were getting started, just kind of take a segue here? Because you started, thrifting books as well, or did you start with something else when you first started reselling?
Yeah, so when I first started, actually, Alaisa, my house actually looked kind of like what you have in your backdrop right there, just stacks and stacks of books all over. But when I first started, I started off by going to the auctions that Goodwill would have, selling all their remainder books. And so, man, I wish I was smart enough to start off cherry picking, but I just kind of went head first. And I remember buying a pallet of books twice a week and taking my dad's SUV and just, I didn't even have a scanner at that point. And so literally we were just loading all the books into the SUV, like every single item, because you don't know what's good, what's bad. And then we drove that home, and then you'd like look it up one by one, figure out what's good. And then you'd have to make a whole nother trip for the duds, like load up all the duds and then take it back to the Goodwill. But anyway, that's how I started.
And do you recall how you heard about books or selling on Amazon back then? Because
Yeah,
there was not a lot of content. So what kind of triggered you into that space?
yeah. So it was actually I want to say 2016 when I first heard about selling, or I'm sorry, 2016, 2006, when I first first heard about selling books on Amazon. And it was actually from my dad. My dad had heard from his friend, and his friend knew a guy down in Colorado Springs, about an hour south of where I'm at. And there was this old dude from Germany. He was like an old German dude, and his name is Carl. And Carl was like an OG bookseller. He'd been selling on Amazon at that point for several years too. And so, he probably was one of the first people to start selling on Amazon. And my dad went to Carl's house to learn how to sell books, but him not really understanding much of English and also technology, he wanted me to go down there so I could learn how to install the printers and this and that. So I was like 15, 16 years old. I followed him down to Colorado Springs, and that's when I first learned how to sell books. And then it wasn't until after I graduated high school that I tried doing it on my own, and that's kind of how I got started. So 2006, long time ago. Wow.
So Carl and your dad had the very first reseller meetup, is what it sounds like, kind of a mentorship, and you got dragged in to be the technology expert. And look, if that meeting never happened, who knows where you'd be today?
Who knows? And I mean, the whole idea is just kind of crazy, right? My dad never met Carl before, and his house, like, I just remember his house because he ran it out of his house, and he just had walls and walls of shelves, just like in the kitchen, in the cupboards, like in the bathrooms, everywhere. And he had no lights in the house either, so everything was dark. I think he was like going around with a flashlight finding all the books, and it was just kind of creepy. And he was like really old. I mean, like I think he was like maybe in his 70s back then. Sorry, Carl, if you're watching this, but yeah, no, it was a lot of faith, that we wouldn't be kidnapped or have our organs harvested, and it was that kind of vibe.
Well, one thing we like about the bookseller community is it is incredibly friendly. And Alaisa, you're figuring that out already. I don't know a lot of other industries, probably not insurance, probably not orthopedics and healthcare where I came from. Everybody kind of viewed each other as competition. And if you had a different company's logo, then you couldn't talk to them. Nationwide wasn't going to talk to Allstate, wasn't going to talk to State Farm, Progressive, whoever. And this community is incredibly welcoming. So take advantage of that. Feel free to reach out to people. Take a risk, reach out, say, hey, ask questions, and just learn what makes them tick and how they got into it. So Alaisa, we're going to put you back on the spot. So you kind of stumbled into the book world, and many people watching may have stumbled in and are sitting on the sidelines. They haven't jumped in yet. whether you found, it's always funny hearing the rabbit trail. So you kind of, I forget who the first person you picked up reselling from.
Oh, Noelle, my friend Noelle.
Okay.
She has a reseller's Instagram. It's Kona_reselling. So if you want to go check her out.
Check that out. So Kona_reselling, and then you kind of got to Fields of Profit, Flips for Miles, and
Yes.
everybody else along that path. Romer the Romer, of course, who usually
Yes.
jumps in here at some point. He's probably still sleeping because he doesn't wake up till about 3 p.m. anyway. Love you, Romer. So it's fun hearing everybody's rabbit trails of how they get in, whether it's a lot of people find Rake and Profit content, Romer, sometimes Reezy, sometimes Book Flipper, whatever it may be. But you're here, you're on the sidelines. There's so much content, free courses, paid courses, etc. Alaisa, what's the, break it down. Give us 2 or 3 things. Just like, how did you actually get started? You got the seller app. Where'd you go find your first inventory? Like, what steps did you take to actually get off the couch and go start doing this?
Yeah. So I actually, so my friend Noelle, she does salsa dancing. Yeah. Um, so she actually does mostly like RA and OA. So that was her main focus. She did say that she got into books for like a couple weeks and then she moved on, which I know a lot of people do that. But I love books. Like I'm like a library sale regular before I was a book flipper, and I would come home with boxes of books just for my own purposes. I got cut off eventually. My husband said no more, and then I actually sold some on Amazon. Um, but yeah, I ended up, I think it was, like I said, it was Fields of Profit, his YouTube channel. And whenever I saw like, oh man, like he was a college kid and he just like went out and he started flipping books and he started going out and he broke it down. He was like, you need a Bluetooth scanner, you need your phone with Scout IQ on it. And I was like, all right, hey, let's download it. I was actually trying to figure out when I officially started like sourcing my books. And the way I figured it out was, what day did I register for Scout IQ? And that was the day that I went out and I got started, which was like, I want to say March 30th, something like that. Um, and that was it. I hit, we have several thrift stores in the area and I live in a college town. And I think that was kind of part of the appeal too, is I was like, I'm going to get these college kids, I'm going to find them and get all their textbooks. And so I'm still working on my process with that. But the other thing in the back of my head was we do have a massive library sale here in town twice a year. They have, I really want to brag about it, but I don't want people coming here.
Don't give away your sources.
I was going to say, but it's advertised all over, the book sale finder. So, I mean, I know people know it's here, but it actually just happened about a week ago and they have about 500,000 books at this book sale. And so in my head, I knew that was coming up in about 3 weeks. And because I go to it anyway, but I was like, I felt like I was kind of training for a marathon, if that makes sense. I was like, okay, I can't have this book sale be my first, my first sourcing adventure. So I was like, I need to get out there and I need to start figuring out what I'm doing first. So like I did what everyone else did. I hit the Goodwills. We have we have a Habitat for Humanity restore that has books. We have a Humane Society thrift store. We have a lot of thrifts and they're all kind of in my area. And I also think just being a college town, there are a lot of books circling out there. I joined some of the buy nothing groups, and some of them won't let you they won't let you get things that you're selling, but mine does, as long as you tell them what's going on. And I had people saying, "Hey, I'm going to leave a box of books for you on my porch. Just swing by and pick them up." So I started driving around neighborhoods, picking up boxes of books. So that's really the main catalyst, was knowing this library sale was coming up and watching a few different videos. Like I want to say maybe Reese did a video, and I watched some of your stuff, Caleb, and I watched an interview between, I think, Rakin and Romer. So I was like mentally preparing for this, and it was just in the back of my head that I really needed to get started. So that's really what was the big push. But that was the main thing: get my scanner, get Scout IQ, Google the thrift stores, and hit the road.
Love it.
I've got a quick question for you, Alaisa.
Yeah.
You mentioned you frequented the library sales even before you started selling books. When did you ever notice resellers when you were there?
So let me tell you guys, and this is why you can't come to my town, because my book sale actually outlawed scanners until this year. Um, it might have actually been the last sale, and to be honest, I don't know if you guys want these side stories, but I did have two people like just randomly harass me while I was scanning, and I was very courteous because I knew that this was like kind of thin ice with this book sale, like that if we were blocking other patrons, that there's a chance that this might not ever happen again. And uh and one guy, I was actually, and I volunteered at the book sale. So I was wiggling my way in. I was like, okay, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to really figure out what's going on here. And so I was actually hanging out with one of the volunteers on the first day when I was scanning. And he was like, hey, I'm putting these books out, but if you want to start scanning them as I put them out, feel free. It's totally cool with me. And I was like, okay, great. Another random patron comes up and is like, oh, you're breaking the rules. I'm going to get you guys banned again. And I was like, okay, I'm really sorry, like, but so that's why I never noticed the scanners because they weren't there. um and I'm hoping that we didn't ruin it this time, because this was the first time and it was wild. It was like I kept thinking it was going to be like the Hunger Games, and it was. um so it's
So
pretty
we'll
crazy.
we'll get to the etiquette there. I love that you kind of circled the date on the calendar and said, "Hey, this is going to be my entry point into this, and I better get ready." So first of all, your story checks out. I've got you signed up for Scout IQ on March 29,
There we go.
2022. So you're just over a month in, so about 5 weeks in, which is great. So there's a couple of hurdles as well, and it's a bit of a challenge. So sounds like you already had an Amazon seller account from flipping a few books in the past. Is that right?
No, I had downloaded the seller app last year. I never actually listed anything. Um, but I think the comment that I had made was that some books that I had purchased in the past, I did end up listing once I got started.
Okay. So at what point, like how long did the Amazon registration process start? Because we've heard some horror stories of people that go in and it takes a while to get your address verified. So talk us through that process because that's a bit of a speed bump.
Yeah, so I think I got really lucky, and I'm noticing this even when it comes to, and maybe this is just me with like my weird conspiracies, but I've had an Amazon like Prime buyers account for over a decade. So I mean, probably since Prime came out. I want to say it came out when I was in college, so I got that nice student discount. Um, and I've kept it ever since. So my verification process, yeah, I've heard people having to do like like virtual interviews and like verifying. I think I've just bought so much stuff from Amazon that when I signed up, they were like, okay, she's real. Let's
Well,
just
they were
let her
like, you have so
go.
much stuff to just resell back on the platform already. So, have at it.
Yeah, and even when it comes to ungating, like I said, this is probably just like my conspiracy, but I've noticed now. Obviously, I'm still restricted with certain books and things like that, but some of my ungating seems to be a little bit easier than some people too, and I don't know why, but I think that some people start with a brand new account instead of and I know there's probably some pros and cons there, but I just took my buyer's account, I made a seller's account, and things seem to go really smoothly for me from there.
Yeah, Scott saying he had to get on a video conference with a live human for 20 minutes. So it can be a little bit, that can kind of be, a slowdown. Typically, you'll get that account. So when you talk about the order of operations, again, you could try and get all your prep in order, get the account, wait for that to come through. Or you could just hit the ground running. If you jump in, you bought the barcode scanner before you even went to your first store. Like, did you make that investment or did you start with your phone camera?
I did not start with my phone. But it's because I just got the little like eYoYo $44 scanner, and yeah, I think at that point I had read enough or I had watched enough that I was like, you know what, I had a feeling I was really going to enjoy it. I mean, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. Sometimes it's pretty physical and exhausting, and it can occasionally it's monotonous depending on how good of a if another seller hit that thrift store right before you. But I had a feeling I was really going to enjoy it. So yeah, I bought the scanner immediately.
Perfect. So you took the plunge.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do one more shameless plug for you. For those of you that are starting out and don't want to invest in your own scanner, we are going to be giving one away at the end of this webinar. So if you haven't yet, pull out your Instagram. And for those of you that aren't on Instagram, I'm sorry. We have other giveaways. You probably won't be able to get this one. But go follow Alaisa at Alaisa Online, all lowercase, no space, no underscores, none of that jazz, just Alaisa Online. Give her a follow, and she'll be picking a random follower that joined during this call at the end of this call, and we'll give that scanner away. So we'll be giving away a nice Opticon 2002 barcode scanner. That really speeds up the game. So one hand having the database mode on Scout IQ, but coupled with the barcode scanner, the couple that was on last week, the awesome reseller, so TJ and Lisa, she said that she's like, I think her record is 1,400 books scanned in 1 hour. So she's got a system. You can go back and watch that. It's Books and Bourbon episode 1, and go back and kind of check out her tips for kind of mowing through books quickly. But it really is a speed game. All right. So you went to your first couple sales. You went to some thrift stores, kind of like most people, kind of, got that going. Did you start listing books, or did you just keep prepping and your whole goal was to get to that library sale?
I listed them. I think my first shipment was like 32 books or something. I think after that first day of like hitting some, like I hit like 1 or 2 thrift stores, I think I came home and I want to say I listed in that day and I sent my little box out. I was ready to go.
Perfect. So did you list right through Seller Central? Did you get a listing software? What was your process there?
Yeah, so I am still working with Seller Central even right now, which is obviously not the way to go, but I'm trying, I'm a 4-figure seller right now, so I'm trying to build it up a little bit more, and then I will definitely be investing like in Exceller List or something. So, but yeah, that's I'm using Seller Central.
Love it. No, it works. And I think just getting started is key. So did you get a label printer, address labels, or did you pay Amazon to label your items?
So I kicked it off with my nice little Canon printer right here and my 30 up labels. But I did quickly, I was, when it came to my shipping labels, I was literally like printing them on paper and cutting them out and like taping them to the box. So I was like, okay, I need to upgrade a little bit here. So I did go out, and that was probably that's so far that's been my biggest purchase. Was I went ahead and got a Rolo. But I don't regret it. It's amazing. And yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, a Rolo is a thermal printer and allows you just to print directly onto like label paper, essentially. So you can just peel those off, put them on the boxes. So a couple tips. I love the fact, again, we talk about that pendulum between perfection and action. And you just took action. You could have done the research. You could have said, hey, it'd be nice to have all this label printer and all this software. And you said, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to just roll up my sleeves and get after it. So one of the tips you can do for those, so you listed everything fulfilled by Amazon. So you sent it to an Amazon warehouse, which takes some faith because you don't know that it's going to work. You just trust other people that say it does. So it sounds like you did a single box, right? You didn't do multiple boxes?
Nope. First time it was just one box.
Perfect. So a single box is extremely helpful. Amazon does require you to label the products. You're going to take a small barcode label, like a 30 up address label, and put that over the barcode. So when Amazon checks it into their facility, they say, oh, this book belongs to Alaisa. It goes on her shelf. When it sells, we'll make sure she gets paid. And you can buy fancy like thermal printers, like a Rolo or a Dymo or a Zebra, or you can use address labels. Or if you don't even have a printer and don't want to jump into that as well, then you can simply pay Amazon. And they keep raising that fee. It used to be like 15 to 20 cents a book. I think it's like up north of 40 or 50 cents now.
Yeah, it's up there.
So you should do it yourself. And one of the best tips is if you end up with multiple boxes, Amazon sometimes can split the shipment, but you also have to go back in and do what's called box contents, where Amazon says, hey, you got 4 boxes of books. You have 100 books to send us. You now have to tell us which books are in box 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And so one of the ways to get around that and make your learning process simple and quick is to just do 1 box at a time. So list the box, fill it up to the brim, cross your fingers. Typically, you don't get split shipments when you do 1 box, and then you're able to ship that off. So you ship that. Do you remember when you first shipped your box?
Oh, it was probably like around like the 30th or the 1st. I mean, it was within a couple days. I could probably actually pull it up. I know.
All right, so the timeline here for those watching and trying to figure out how they can kind of follow along. March 29 signs up for Scout IQ, goes and starts hitting thrift stores. March 30, 31, whatever it might be, sends your first box in. When did your first sale happen?
So so technically, I did send in a box on like of some retail stuff on like the 26th or something, just one box with 8 items in it. And my first official sale in that case was April 1st. So it's just a couple days later, but my first book, let me see. So it was actually April 3rd. It was 30 units I sent out. And then I
Okay.
sent another one out on the 5th with 34 units. And then I sent out another one on the 6th. I was like, okay, we're gonna go out, we're gonna get these books. And then my first let me see real quick. Sorry, I might need just a second to find out.
That's good. Well, I love again taking that action, and there is we call it a double dopamine hit. Say that 4 times quickly. A
Yeah.
double dopamine hit. So there's that excitement in the field when you scan a barcode or a book's ISBN, and it goes ding. Congratulations, this book has profit potential. It sells regularly. It's got enough profit to be worth it. But you don't get that money that day, right? If you go drive for Uber, you push a button and it deposits money into your account. You get that direct connection between effort and reward. In the book world, it's an inventory game. So Alaisa went, found the books, gets the dings. Yep. Then she has to list them, then ship them. Then Amazon has to check them in. And did you find it? When was your first book sale?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure honestly the books did not actually get checked in. So I sent it off on the 3rd. I think I was like in transit until I want to say like maybe the 9th, something like that. It actually took a little while. The first few did take a while, and it kind of varies. But my first book sale was on the 11th. And I mean, I was like, whoa, like I only sent in 30 books. Like I can't believe I already sold one. This is crazy.
Do you
That's
have a
awesome.
title?
Yeah, it's Alfred's Essentials of Music Theory. It's a complete study for all musicians, is what it says.
But that sold for what, about 25, $30?
Yep, it was 25.95.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
That was very good.
Lucky guess. Lucky guess. Well, music books tend to do really well. Math and music are kind of my go-to categories at a library sale. So, nonfiction tends to do better than fiction. The more niche, the more, specific it is. Kind of if you look at a book and go, why would somebody write a book about this? It's probably worth something on Amazon. So it is important to understand as you're jumping in, you have to be committed to it. So Alaisa circled a date on a calendar. She jumped in. She took action quickly. She didn't let the inventory build up. She does have a pile of books behind her, which we'll talk about in a second. But she, one box at a time, every other day, every third day, she sent those in. And about 2 weeks later from the time she, scanned her first book, she actually got her first book sale. So that's actually pretty quick.
Really
Now, the other downside is Amazon's going to hold some of that money in reserve. We talked about this last week as well. As new sellers, they have to protect the platform, and there's some not so good people and bad eggs ruin it. Just like at a library sale where scanners get restricted and banned, bad sellers on Amazon can ruin it. There was a whole story of people used to buy iPhones, open it up, fill it with the exact amount, exact weight down to the gram is what the iPhone was, but they did it with sand. They would send that back in. It would get checked into the fulfillment center. Part of Amazon's check wasn't even opening the package. They would just weigh it and say, yep, it matches the stated weight, and they throw it back into inventory. So the next customer that goes to buy that iPhone ends up with a box full of sand, and they're going to Amazon going, hey, I got a box of sand. And they go, that's not right. And the seller's going, that's not right. So there's some bad apples out there. And the way Amazon helps combat that, both from a buyer and a seller perspective, is they don't pay you all your money right away. So have you had a payout from Amazon yet?
No. So what ended up happening, and it's pretty wild, like when you first start, that first, pay period comes around, but if you keep making sales, they will keep holding your money,
Yeah.
because it's that whole, exchange. So it almost felt like I was hurting myself because I would see my sales continue to go up, but then the amount in account reserve would keep going up. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, what can I do? Now, technically, I could have gotten a payout already. I think they finally said, hey, you have X amount of dollars available just a few days ago. And I probably will start pulling some of that out. But part of me was like, you know what? I already waited this long. It's been like 6 weeks. So I might as well just wait until the 7th and just get that the full payout. So.
Yeah, so Amazon, I think they give the option for daily payouts
Mhm.
now, but typically they pay you every other week, just like payday, right? So, and I think it just varies based on when you originally signed up. I think my paydays are, I want to say Tuesdays, but I think it varies for everybody. Um, Cool. So that's a pretty good genesis. So again, there's a lag between finding the books, figuring out how to list them. There's all these hurdles: getting your Amazon account, listing the books, waiting for the sales to happen. The beauty is Amazon's got a huge marketplace, number one traffic site for books and really anything. I think they own more than 50% of e-commerce in the US. So that's pretty outstanding. And yes, they do charge expensive fees and fulfillment fees, and shipping is expensive and all those things that go with it. But Matthew, Dave, Alaisa, myself, we don't have to find a customer. Those customers already exist. We simply have to find the inventory, send it to Amazon, and the rest sort of gets handled for us, which is pretty fantastic. So as Scott says, it is delayed gratification. There's no instant rewards. It's not get rich quickly. And every time you ship a box of books to Amazon, that might cost you, $12 to $15 to $20, depending on which warehouse you're shipping it to. And that amount of money is going to get held from your reserves as well. So you're constantly digging a bigger hole, and then of course you're sourcing inventory, and eventually, as you keep building this, it eventually catches momentum, and you're able to start pulling money back out. But the longer you can delay that, if this is a side hustle for you, or if you still have a day job where you don't need to spend the money right away, the longer you can delay that and keep reinvesting that money into online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, more books, bulk, whatever it may be, the more you can continue to just grow that head of steam. So, well, let's talk a little bit about library sale etiquette, so that hopefully we can help prevent other sales from shutting down scanners, and then we'll jump into some Q&A. So again, if you are watching, make sure you give Alaisa a follow on Instagram at Alaisa Online. No underscore, no space. She seems embarrassed that we keep mentioning this, but we want to make sure that she gets some love. She's sharing her story, so she's being extremely brave. Again, she was bragging that she's a 3-figure Amazon seller. Now she's 4. Give it, I bet 2 to 3 months, and she'll be talking about 5. So that'll be in the future. I have no doubt she'll get there, hopefully 6 and beyond. So she's sharing her story. It is scary. It does kind of sidetrack her, but this is a cool community. I have no doubt that investment will be worth it. So if you do want to follow a beginner's journey and not, Dave's an expert, he's a pro. There's a lot of great people out there you can follow. But if you want to follow somebody that may be more relatable, give her a follow and you'll be eligible for a barcode scanner. So let's talk about library sales. So I'm guessing there's a preview sale. Let's talk through your strategy. Did you show up early? Where did you go first? What were your thoughts going into the sale?
Yeah, so there's actually they don't do a preview sale either. And I mean, I don't know. This is the only library sale that I know. But whenever I was kind of digging in and I was asking them like, oh, how many books are there? Blah blah blah. They actually said that they're under the impression that they're actually the largest Friends of the Library sale in the U.S. So it's I mean
something to say about that, but they could be right up there.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. That's according to them. They might have been like the biggest sale back in 1975 when they kicked off, because they've been going on for a while.
Yep.
But I know that today they are sorting books right now for the next one. So they literally hit the ground running immediately, but they do not do a pre-sale. So I got to see the books in advance because I volunteered. But I didn't get to buy. But I did get to walk in, kind of get the layout and all of that. But the line starts forming at 9 a.m. the day before. Yeah. People camp out at 9 a.m. Yeah, on Friday morning, when I showed up Friday afternoon, there were already multiple people in line with cots and tents. And what I heard was it's partly because there's like a collector's corner there. And so the collector's corner can only house 20 people. So if those first 20 people hit the collector's corner, no one else is getting in. And I thought it was really crazy though, because the sale starts at 9 a.m. I showed up at 6:15. Okay. I showed up at 6:15. I asked what time I should show up. I was planning on showing up at 7, and they said, "Oh, well, you can show up at 7, but the line is going to be down the block. You won't be around the corner, but you will be down the block." And I didn't want to be down the block. I wanted to be in the parking lot where all the action was happening. So I showed up at 6:15, got my little camp chair. It was like a little party there. I just passed the time, and then when 9 a.m. hit, um, I wasn't thinking about the collector's corner. I just thought it was kind of silly because that first person that had been there for like 24 hours got into the building like 45 seconds before I did, So, but I get it now. Anyway, yeah, I went in. I actually brought my husband with me because I was like, I need some support. I trained him on the scanner, but I actually had gotten a different kind of scanner and his was not working properly, even though it was working at home. Yeah. So we immediately ran into some problems. But it kind of worked out because I was like, at this point, I was like the pro and he was like my runner. So he had the boxes and I was just going boom, 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 boom. And I hit the textbooks first. But the problem is there's no textbook section. The textbooks are within their own genre of whatever. So I think I hit like medical, math, basically all of the subjects I could think of, biology, things like that. And then I scooted over to self-help. I knocked that out. And then I just started scoping out the sections that were full because as books were coming out, books were coming back in. And so if I could see that it just got restocked, even though there were a ton of other sellers or scanners, I hit that section. So I doubled back to self-help like 3 times and it was like a gold mine. And even when the sale ended that day, they had something like 25 pallets of books left that they hadn't even started to put out yet. So, but yeah, I went hard for like 5 or 6 hours, and then I came out of a daze and dropped like $700.
Did you make friends with any other scanners there?
Yeah, I did chit chat with some. Yeah, I chit chatted with some. Mostly it was just like us kind of like in camaraderie against the people that hated us. So it wasn't like common, but I did have a woman come up and like, be like, "Are you even from here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I live 10 minutes down the road." "Well, do you donate to the Friends of the Library?" Like, "Yeah, I donate and I volunteer." Like,
buying all these books
what do you want me to
too.
say? Yeah, so
Spending
she
the
was
most
like
money.
upset about it. And and I just said, "Listen, if we don't buy these books today and they're still here after Wednesday, I know for a fact they're going in the dumpster outside. So, if I'm going to buy them, if someone else is going to buy them, like, let's not get too upset about this here."
Yeah, so let's pause there for just a second. You raised a number of really good points. You're a great interview candidate. I don't hardly have to ask questions. You just run with it. So
I like to
this has
talk.
been fantastic. No wonder you did good at your sales training job. So a couple important things that stood out. One, you did your homework. You called in to the front. Obviously, you invest your time there. You kind of were friends or knew some of the people. But it's incredibly important to do your research. Call ahead. Make sure they do allow scanners, or especially if it's not posted, or sometimes even if it is posted that they don't allow them, they still will. So call, check on that, confirm if there is a preview sale. If there is, even if it's $50 to get in the door, you'd better be there because other resellers will be. And ask. So the Phoenix sale, they only let so many people into the building, and people, same thing, they camp out a day or two in advance. And so if they only let a certain number of people in the front door to begin with, not just to the collector's corner, you better be in that first batch of people. Otherwise, in some cases, you may as well not go. You're missing the big rush, which is a big deal. So make sure you do your homework there, get there early enough. And then you said your husband's scanner had a little bit of a malfunction.
Yeah.
Test your equipment.
Yeah.
But the morning of, make sure your database downloaded. If you have the database, check it, go on airplane mode and scan a couple books, make sure it's working. Make sure your scanners are charged. Make sure your phone is charged. Bring an external battery. Just make sure you've gone through that process rather than getting there, especially if you drive a couple hours, you invest a couple hours to be there early and you get into the sale and that scanner doesn't connect. That's incredibly frustrating. So make sure you call ahead, do your homework, do your research, and test your technology. So talk us through a little bit. Did they have a section where you could kind of park the books as you filled a box or a cart, or what did it look like as you're running around scanning books, finding the winners? How did you manage the keepers during that whole process?
Yeah, so on day 1, they don't allow anything with wheels. So no carts, no suitcases, nothing, okay? No strollers, that's in the rules. It used to be all weekend, but now it's just the first day. Um, so I in the past, when I was a customer, I would go with a backpack, I would wear it on backwards, and I would just stuff it, but obviously I wasn't getting, like, 400 books. Um, so we brought boxes, they had to be labeled. They're actually back there still. Had to label them, and then they had a tent outside the back door, um, for the it was the large order tent. So if you were going to have at least 5 boxes, you were part of the large order tent. And so I showed up with 6 boxes labeled, put them in the large order tent. I had faith that I was going to fill them, and we came home with like 11 or 12 boxes. They had them available there too. Um, and luckily, my husband has a truck, and I thought it was going to rain. I almost lost my mind. But we got home with no rain. And yeah, as I filled them up, my husband had to like literally like rip the box away from me. He was like, "This box is full. Like it needs to go. I'll bring you another one." But I was like, "No, no, no, just this one." And then I started to like kind of make my own little pile to the side while he went out and brought me another box. So having that extra person there was really crucial because I would not have been able to pull off. I mean, I would have lost a lot of time uh, running that stuff myself.
Yeah, having someone to help is incredibly important. A lot of times at sales, there'll be some volunteers. They'll even come and see you. Denver had a really good sale. They would actually bring a box to you when they saw it getting full. They put your name on it and they'd run it back for you. So they did a really good job. They knew that was important. So let's talk through a little bit of the etiquette. So on one hand, the Friends of the Library group, they're actually happy you're there. Their goal is to raise money for the library. A lot of nonprofits aren't allowed to necessarily take money directly. That Friends of the Library group is a shield that can then actually accept the money, run a business enterprise, so to speak, and then donate the proceeds back to the nonprofit. So it is a very important element for those libraries or organizations. They're happy to see you. Their goal is to sell books. You're buying books. You're buying a lot of books. And you said you spent what, a couple $100s?
Yeah, I think we actually spent like 600 and something dollars. I average about $2 a book, but that's partially because they do their homework. So the textbooks were not like a dollar, you know. I think there were a couple that were like maybe like 10 to 20. I think the most expensive one was maybe 20, 25. But you know, I was able to look at the Keepa graphs and kind of dig in a little bit, and I snagged them anyway because I knew I was going to be able to flip them.
Yep. So you spent about 700 bucks, so maybe 300 books, give or take.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that math checks out. Typically, you get 25 to 30 books in a box. You had 11 boxes.
Yeah, like I think it was about 11, yeah.
Yeah, so 11 at 25 is 275. You can check the math later. So you did so that's a fantastic start. It's really, that's really a week's worth of sourcing that you did in a couple of hours.
Mhm.
So etiquette wise, Friends of Library Group is happy you're there. Show respect to the volunteers. Thank them for being there. Smile. Definitely don't throw elbows. Be kind to other resellers. If someone else is at a table, you can, jump in on the other side. That's fine, but don't be that guy or girl that just jumps in right next to them and starts like, edging out for position. Show some respect there. And the other thing is, anytime I saw someone without a scanner that's looking for books, they'd kind of be, some would come up and talk. Most people just kind of look, like dumbfounded, like what's going on. And I would always just try and say, hey, if you're buying these for yourself and you see anything you want, even like stuff in my box that I already pulled out, it's yours. Like if there's a book you're going to read, it's yours. So just holler. And no one really ever took me up on it, but I wanted them to feel welcome. I didn't want, because I'm moving quickly and they're trying to sit there and read the titles and inspect things. So be very cautious that way, and just be kind to those around you. And then one other thing, if it is going to potentially rain, bring a tarp or have a way to kind of store those inside. There's nothing worse than having, you spent $600. What do you expect you'll make when the dust settles?
I did like a rough, and I mean, this is assuming like every book sells for the price that I plan to list them at. But after I did all the math, and that's between FBA and some of the FBM, I was looking at about like $3,000 in profit.
Fantastic.
The textbooks really help that, jump up quite a bit. So
Yeah. Like someone mentioned earlier in one of the comments, you mentioned you're a 3-figure seller. I bet there's a 3-figure book in that pile that you picked up. So
Yeah, it'll really help.
one book can make your day for sure. So you don't have a ton of experience with the inventory side yet. I know David knows his numbers incredibly well. And obviously we sell a tracking spreadsheet and some other things too. Actually, do you have that yet?
No, I was actually just talking to another book flipper about it.
Right.
So
We are hit me. Oh, Matthew's ready with the link. If you guys want to check it out, I use this for consignment. I use this to run my numbers. Alaisa will actually give this to you as our thanks for jumping on the show. So message me after. I'll give you a link to download this. This is a cool accounting tool that allows you to see sell-through rates, understand things. So if you actually listed those, well, you listed through Seller Central.
Mhm.
So I may have to kind of help walk you through it a bit. But if you use a listing software like AccelerList or ScanLister or Inventory Lab, you can actually put a source. So you don't tell us the name of the library, but you could just say, library A as your source, and you could track those 300 books and actually see over the course of the next several months and a year how many of them sell, what the profit is, etc. So you're saying if everything sells, you'll make maybe $3,000 profit. So rough numbers, what you can expect, you'll probably expect to sell anywhere between 75 to 80% of those books. So you're never going to sell every single book that you buy. Some of them just don't, and that's okay. You don't want to treat every book as kind of as its individual soldier. You want to treat it as a platoon or as a portfolio. So if 80% of them are winners and you're able to sell and make money on them, that way offsets the fact that you're not going to be able to sell 15 to 20% of the books. So that's one important thing. Other things to consider: some of those books will go up in price. If you have a repricer, you might capture a higher price than expected. Of course, we always hate the undercutters in price. We always complain about that in the Facebook groups. You will see some of the books, of course, erode in price and go down. So you have expected profits. The interesting thing is you're spending $600. If you're expecting to make 3,000, that's a 5-to-1 return. Even if you're wrong and get 3-to-1 or 4-to-1, still not a bad use of a morning.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Well, at this point, we're going to turn it over if Dave or Matthew have any questions. Otherwise, if you are watching and want to drop a comment below or above or to the side or however you've set up your screen, we'll entertain a few questions. We have been going for an hour. It is now officially 5 o'clock somewhere. So for those of you getting ready to go celebrate Cinco de Mayo, you can get out and do so shortly. But if you do want to drop a couple questions, we'll stick around for another 15 minutes or so. And you can direct them toward any of us, of course. But obviously, if you want to hear from Alaisa, ask some questions as well.
I've got a question.
Here.
So I've got a question for you. Those books behind you, are they waiting to go to Amazon, or are you merchant fulfilling them?
Yeah. So I would say the bottom portion of a lot of these stacks are textbooks. So I'm just waiting a little bit longer for textbook season to throw those out. The rest of them are probably going to go out FBM, but I haven't merchant fulfilled yet. Like I don't know why it's so intimidating to think that I've got to stick this in an envelope or a box and label it and send it to someone, but I haven't even gotten that far. So this is I think on the eBay sellers call it their death pile. This is what I'm working with right now. So
it's the most organized death pile I've ever seen.
It's a good one. I actually would recommend, and I was very pro FBA all along the way, even sharing my journey, but I actually started merchant fulfilled. I think it's a little easier to understand. And there's an understanding that, hey, this book sold, I can physically grab the book off my shelf, throw it in an envelope or a padded mailer or box or however you want to ship it, and send it off and actually feel like that's success. And at some point, and that does eliminate the need to label books, to get a barcode, label printer and all of those things as well, and pay for shipping. So you can literally, just like you have a pile of them, put them on a shelf. It doesn't really matter. And at some point, every day you'll come home and be like, uh-oh, I got 3 books to sell. And you'll have a giant smile on your face because it feels like winning. And then at some point you'll kind of go, all right, this is getting old. It's time to learn how to do FBA. So I actually would recommend the opposite. I love that you got started and did FBA. I think merchant fulfilled is easier in some ways, and it feels more real, more tangible.
So we got a question from Adam here. The name of the scanner you mentioned, this was posted earlier. So I think it's when you were talking about what tools you bought when you first got started. Which scanner did you say you bought on Amazon? He said it was $40 something, probably the IOYO, I'm guessing. Just
Yep, that was it.
The IOYO, there's a new one. It's called the IOYO Mini, I think. It's the $44 one that shows up first on Amazon. Let me look at the name of that, because there's the old IOYO and there's the newer slim IOYO scanner.
I don't think mine would be considered slim by any means. It's a little, it's a little fat little guy.
All right, so you probably got it's like a block. Is it like a block in your hands?
Yeah, it's like the old Nokia like brick phone. That's what it reminds me of.
Yep, yeah, that $41.99 is what that one's going for on Amazon right now. They're actually sponsoring that one. And then there's the newer IOYO, the mini laser barcode scanner. I've got that one, and that one actually works great as well. I've used both of those. The newer one actually connects a little better from my experience to your phone. So for those wanting a scanner, except the scanner being given away today, Caleb, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the OPN 2002, right?
Yes. Yep. So it's about the size of a 9-volt battery. I need to have it with me. I've got a cheapie, probably outside of reach. I'm plugged in with my earphone here, but IOYO is great. I know Romer likes those as well. The technology is pretty good on most of them. The Opticons will run anywhere from $100, probably $75. You can pick them up on eBay sometimes, up to $250 new. So keep your eyes out for those.
Got a question here for David. If you want to read that, David.
Yeah. It says, "Hey Dave, what did you do first for bulk? Get a warehouse, then books, then a forklift." Man, I wish it was that order, but like I said, when I first started, I guess technically I first started off doing bulk, buying pallets and loading them up. It just wasn't at my own warehouse. Let's see. So after I would go to the auctions and just buy pallets of books, they stopped doing that for a while and switched over to an outlet system. And so we were cherry picking for about 3-4 years. And then back in 2011 is when I first moved into our warehouse. And back then it was at the height of the recession, and we rented out 5,000 square feet for, I want to say $1,300. It was dirt cheap back then. So we got a warehouse first, then got a forklift, then got books. So yeah, that was the order I did it.
Nice.
Love it.
Got another comment here. So, few months in myself and loving this new series. Just getting into AccelerList. I'm currently listing the buy box price. Any tips or advice for better initial pricing? I think we've got a really good old training on this. I should find the link to, if you want to answer this, Caleb, I'll find the link to that real fast. I could post that in the comments.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good just pricing in general. So the rules for pricing and repricing are really the same, except for repricing, you should have a couple different rules for older inventory. One of the things we talk about changes to the Amazon warehouse and what's going on. Actually, last week while we were on the call, they announced that they're going to be starting to charge long-term storage. They call it like an inventory surcharge now. It's not a long-term storage. They changed the name of it, but they're going to be charging that at 9 months now instead of 12. Again, Amazon doesn't want to store your stuff. They want to sell it. So you should have some age-based parameters. So the older it gets, you've already sold off the cream of the crop. If you haven't sold 50 to 60% of your books in the first typically 2 to 3 months, you probably missed a little bit of the gravy train. And the ones that take longer to sell are typically long tail. Maybe they've dropped in price and they're below your minimum. So there's two schools of thought. One is to just price everything at like $999 and then come back in with a repricer or with new price or manually price it and kind of reprice it later. If you are using listing software, then you can kind of pick the buy box or whatnot. A good rule of thumb is essentially match whatever Scout IQ is telling you, but understand that there's limitations in the API. So basically, the rough rule is the more often a book sells, the more aggressive you can be. When you sell Prime, you're going to be able to get anywhere from a $3 to $5 Prime bump, meaning someone's willing to pay more for the Prime book because they're going to get it with free 1 or 2 day shipping in most cases. It also gets the buy box. So merchant fulfilled books typically do not win the buy books when there are FBA offers or Prime offers present. So understanding that, the buy box is really important. Alaisa is probably not eligible until she gets a couple feedback scores. So you're also fighting that uphill battle. But if you are buy box eligible, then kind of being in the buy box is important, with the caveat. Let's say you have a book with an e-score of 100 that sells nearly every day or every other day. let's say the lowest merchant fulfilled price is $8. Amazon's on it for 20, so we have a high ceiling. And there's the buy box is 10, and then the next lowest prime is 13. You probably don't want to match the buy box. You want to let them sell out at 10, and you want to position yourselves to capture the next sale, because instead of waiting 2 days to get a sale at $10, you might wait 4 to 6 days to get a sale at 13. So understanding how often something sells, it's all supply and demand at the end of the day, and then matching that up to where you want to be or slot yourself in is important. And again, if you only have a couple hundred books, you can kind of go through manually with new price while watching, soap operas and telenovelas and sports or whatever. You can go through and actually reprice very intelligently. If your inventory is much larger, like Dave will run into, and even myself, I can't go back and do that individually. We just have to apply broad rules through repricing software and do a good enough job. So it is a volume game, but yeah, check that out. There's a link there, and it kind of gives my rules. And pricing is something, I think I even say it in that video. There's no perfect way to price. And again, you don't just want to take action and list it all for $8 because you'll sell a lot of books like that. Her first book was 20, 25, 90 something, $26. And if she just listed everything for 10, she would have left money on the table. So pricing is important. It's important to understand, but if you are just starting out, matching the buy box is typically a good way to go.
Nice. Yeah, that's the link down there for people that want to enter that in. Let me actually throw that in the comments as well for those that actually just want to copy and paste that. But that's an hour-long training that was done a little while ago on this exact topic of how to select a price when listing books on Amazon. Do you want to do the giveaway real fast? And then we can see maybe one or two last questions before we take, we're at an hour and 13 minutes right now. So
yeah, let's go
through into the giveaway. Let's see, how many notifications do you have on your Instagram right now? I'm curious how many new followers you have gotten. Once again, let me throw this banner back up for those that want to maybe do a last-minute entrance.
Last-minute entry. So
last-minute entry. Go to Instagram. Follow real fast.
Did we get you a few followers?
Yeah, I actually had checked earlier when you guys mentioned it again, and I think there were like 12 or 15, and now there's another 10. Oh, actually, yeah, I was gonna say I think it might be closer to like 34. That would have been since you posted on your Instagram though, because they did start coming in whenever you posted that we were doing this in your story. So
perfect. Well, that works. And if you are watching this later, you're too late for the giveaway, but that's all right. You can still follow for again, kind of raw content from someone that's brand new, and there's a chance she falls on her face and makes some mistakes. She definitely will. But you can kind of learn from her, learn from all of us. I've got all kinds of mistakes I've learned along the way. So if you would go ahead and refresh one last time for those that have just signed in, and we can either do a random number generator. Matthew could do that if we think there's about 35 or 40 people. He could actually do that. And then you could just scroll down to the that number that followed you, or you can just kind of go up and down, and wherever the spirit leads, you can pick somebody. So whichever way we want to go.
Yeah, you choose. We've got a number generator if you want it, or you can just do the close your eyes and swipe.
Let's go ahead and do the number. I don't want that much pressure on me.
All right. So let's say it's 40. So Matthew, do a quick random number generator.
All right. So min 1, max 40, and generate. The number is 23.
All right. So
let's check it out.
Drum roll, please, as she scrolls down.
Oh, don't.
Lucky number 23.
Oh, let's check it out. All right, guys. I got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Uh-oh, hold on just a second.
Of course, it had to be a big number. It couldn't have been.
Yeah, they all like kind of junked together here. But I do have I have Mr. Bigfoot is I don't know if they're here.
Bigfoot.
All right, so we will reach out to them, and if Mr. Bigfoot is watching, you can comment in the comments as well. But we'll track you down on Instagram. I might need your help there, Alaisa, but we'll track you down, and we will get your address and send you your very own barcode scanner. So well done. Thanks for participating. Thanks for being good sports, everybody. We'll take just a few more questions, and then we will sign off for the evening.
All right, let me see up here. Avery joined the chat a minute ago and said the button gets stuck from time to time. I'm guessing he was talking about the iYoyo.
Yep.
Let me see some other questions as we get on this. If you guys see something, feel free to pull it out.
Someone just said, where's Dave located?
Oh, I'm Mr. Bigfoot. All right. We got the
Hey,
winner
Brian,
right
good.
there.
All right. We will track you down, Brian. Thanks for that. Dave, where are you located? Someone wants to know. Hopefully that you don't owe them money.
They probably want to know to stay out of that
You're
area.
muted. You're muted, Dave.
I'm in Denver.
He's in Denver, Colorado. There's a lot of other Denvers out there, but he's in the Denver. Someone says I received 2 paperback books I ordered from an Amazon FBA seller. One was tucked inside the front cover of the other. So they ordered 1 book and got 2. I now know that I'm not comfortable. So everything is risk. Amazon will lose your items. We get returns all the time. I get car parts and baby products and clothing. I only sell books. And I'll get stuff that gets returned to me and it is not a book and it's got my sticker on it, right? So you can either say, hey, I don't trust Amazon, I'm going to do it myself. But spoiler alert, the post office will lose your stuff. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So Amazon's pretty darn good. Are they going to make mistakes? Certainly. But I like outsourcing, most of my business to them. So that's don't let that deter you from trusting them. They will make mistakes. There's humans involved there as well.
Here's another one. So how did you get your husband to join you, and will he be going scouting with you in the future?
So I actually kind of hyped him up. I was like, he really likes fishing. I tried to relate it to his own hobbies. I was like, listen, we're fishing for books, like we're gonna find the right books. And then I actually sent him the same videos I had watched, which I think it was from Reezy Resells and then the Rake and Profit with Romer the Roamer. And I said, hey, check out these videos. This is the mentality that I would just want you to have. I just want you to be prepared going in. And it's gonna be cool. Like, let's just do it. And so he was down. Yeah.
Could you tell, was he starting to have fun towards the end, or was his scanner issues causing that to not really
Man,
play out?
he was pretty disappointed that his scanner wasn't working, and I don't know what it was exactly, because it had worked on the books at home. I think just something went wrong, and the thing is, I was there with extra batteries and just all sorts. I was ready, but it didn't work. He was still, I think, pretty hyped for it though, because as I was just finding books, he was like, oh, this is cool. And then eventually he started just typing them in. I'm actually getting Amazon Prime delivery right now. As he was typing them in, he was getting a little ding, which is so gratifying, obviously. And so he was like, sometimes he would type them in even after I already knew they were good, and he was like, I just, I want to get the experience,
I want that dopamine hit.
Nice.
I love it. Well, quick shout out. He's not a bookseller, but one of my buddies, Mark, down in Arkansas, he's become a really good friend. And I know that him and probably Nikki and Mary are watching. He just texted me about my As the Spirit Leads comment. So Mark, thanks for watching. I didn't realize there's some non-booksellers in the house, but appreciate you. If for everybody else watching, we do appreciate that as well. We will close things out here. If you do have questions for any of us, you can find us. I'm at The Book Flipper. Dave is at Dave Can Read. I think Matthew is at Matthew Osborne.
Yep, just my name.
Very boring, but useful. And Alaisa is at Alaisa Online. So feel free to reach out. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And we will we'll have another fun interview. I got a couple people lined up. If you do know of anybody that you think would make a great referral and a great storyteller, whether they're brand new, whether they have a ton of experience, even if they're not even selling books, heaven forbid, by all means, reach out, drop me a line on Instagram or email caleb@thebookflipper.com and send us those referrals. We're always looking for fun, new, exciting people to interview. So Alaisa, thanks for being here. I did send you a link to the tracking spreadsheet with a free coupon, so you can snag that. And hopefully that helps your business as well. And we will catch everybody else next Thursday for episode number 3 of Books and Bourbon. And for that, we will sign out. Cheers, and have a very safe and happy Cinco de Mayo.
Cheers.